keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from offseason to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. We are back and better than ever. We had a little bit of a break, and I don't know about you, Alex, but I'm feeling great and ready to get into 49ers content because absolutely nothing happened while we were gone.
Nothing has gone on at all whatsoever. Ignore what you see on the screen over here.
Oh.
Just opposite of us. Just ignore it.
Didn't even see that.
No, we see this. None of these things truly matter. Nothing happened during our break, Ant. Nothing. The Niners didn't have a coaching carousel issue that we're going to talk about probably later this week. There's definitely no drama surrounding the quarterback room. Yeah, if you've been following us on Twitter or either one of our personal Twitter handles at Coach Anto and at Alex Paul Cesania, nothing happened.
No, nothing.
We haven't even been talking about any of it.
No,
we didn't get sucked into anything during our break. We enjoyed our break.
Yeah.
Like,
49ers news is it's nonstop. There is no off season. You throw in the fact that the baseball's in their little lockout thing going on. Mm-hmm. Basketball I haven't watched in a long time. So
Kyler Murray just lost all of his leverage. Poor guy.
Yeah. Russell Wilson removed Seahawks from his Instagram. So you know what that means. He'll be playing in Seattle next year.
Most likely.
Anyways, it's just there's so much stuff that comes around with the 49ers. Of course, you have all the the news and the fallout from the NFC Championship game. But one of the big things has been this quarterback carousel. Everyone's talking about what could happen with the quarterback chaos. What's gonna happen? But it's like a circular thing because every day it's like, oh no, they can't possibly get Aaron Rodgers. The next day it's like
Matt Mayoko. It's going to be Tom Brady. The next day, Aaron Rodgers wants $50 million to stay in Green Bay. The next day, Trey Lance is ready to start. Here's some practice footage from Javier Vega that he got from a wide receiver who sent him the footage because he wanted to show how well he was catching the ball in practice. And Javier Vega used it to his own benefit to create a storyline and narrative. Besides that...
Big ups to Javier Vega for getting the information. Big ups to Javier Vega for basically blowing Twitter up.
He did. He blew it up.
It was like 2.5-second clips, and they just blew up.
And they blew up because everyone's excited about Trey. As are we here. We're extremely excited about Trey Lance and all the possibilities and potentiality of what he may be.
There's not very many human beings in the world that can make those throws.
No.
But we talking about practice, man.
We're also talking about something that we already knew Trey Lance could do.
Yeah.
That was the thing when those clips got dropped. It was like, okay, I knew all of this. Like nothing you've shown me here makes me go, wow, Trey's ready. It makes me go, yeah, I already knew Trey could do that.
Yeah, we saw it in training camp.
We saw it all in training camp.
The talent's there. Trey is an immense talent. He's fantastic.
Extremely.
The arm talent, the way he's able to move, he's just a really good quarterback. I mean, that's just the way it comes down to. From a physical trait standpoint, that's never been the question. I think what is the question, and that's why the chaos has ensued, is because people question whether he is actually ready to take the reins of a team that is poised to go on another Super Bowl run. You had them get, how close to winning the NFC Championship game. This is 2 times now in 3 years that they've been to the NFC Championship game. One of those they, got to the Super Bowl. So I just think there's so many questions. And whenever you have a lingering, player out there like Tom Brady, that is possibly the greatest of all time. I say possibly because I believe you don't want to really mingle guys with different eras. This is the Joe Montana, Tom Brady conversation, which is a whole other conversation. But I think that when it comes down to it, Tom being out there and the fact that the 49ers have this ready-to-go team makes it seem like a necessary fit. You throw in the fact that Tom Brady's only going to count for $10.6 million against the cap, and all of a sudden you're like, ding, 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 ding. It makes sense. Also, all the news comes out with Bruce Arians, possibly him and Tom Brady not getting along. Brady's really walking away from the commitment to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Would he have that commitment, though, playing for the 49ers? I think that's why there's so much noise around it, because I think people believe Tom Brady would love to play one season for the San Francisco 49ers. Could they delay Trey Lance taking over for 1 year of Tom Brady?
You could, 100%. I mean, anyone that looks at this and says you can't do that, or it doesn't make any sense to do that, doesn't understand Trey's issues. Because they ignore Trey's issues. I mean, I see a lot of the Trey stands, much like the Jimmy stands, are basically the same. Those categories of people are the same people. They just believe in a different guy and are willing to overlook the flaws and the issues with said quarterback to move on, with what they believe is the current present or the current future of this organization. And I do believe Trey is the future of this organization. But Trey's issues are that of mechanics. It's that of being able to read and dissect defenses. A lot of rookie quarterbacks who come in have one of those two things.
Right.
Either a mechanical issue, but they're really good at reading defenses. See Cam Newton. Cam Newton was a perfect example of that. Had mechanical issues and flaws with his release, footwork, all that stuff, but was a very highly intelligent quarterback who could extend plays and get the ball to the guy when he needed to get the ball, especially before the shoulder went bad, right? As soon as the shoulder went bad and the foot got hurt and he was no longer could do certain things, well, now the mechanical issues played a big part in it because it took him a little bit longer to get the ball out, weird releases, funky angles, not getting there with the same velocity. Well, now he goes downhill. Cap, same sort of thing, right? Struggled reading defenses, but had a cannon of an arm. Throw the ball 1,000 miles an hour. Well, as soon as he got injured and some of the limitations came with the physical aspect of the game for him, no longer the same person because he faltered in one of those two aspects. Trey has questions at both things. And I don't think his questions with reading defenses are like things that are going to persist. I think he's a very smart kid who's going to be able to figure it out, but he doesn't have a lot of playing experience. So there's a learning curve there in terms of figuring out coverages, where to go with the football, etc., things of that nature. I think with time, he gets better with those things. But the mechanics is a completely different issue and monster in and of itself, because his is a release issue. I don't think it's a footwork issue as much as it is the release and the wind-up sort of aspect with his throwing, which again is negated by some of the physical tools. However, if the physical tool ever goes, if he starts getting hurt, if he injures the shoulder on a run or something like that, you're looking at something that could affect him down the road and his ability to be the future 10 years from now. It may be a sort of flame out thing where he's great for 7, and then after 5, 6, 7 years, if he starts getting hurt, you have issues. And I think Kyle's trying to protect him from that. Let's take the time to develop those things now. And that's part of the reason why the QB chaos thing, like you talked about, it exists, is because the Trey Lance question marks allow for this to exist, as well as Jimmy Garoppolo and what's going on there. Can they move off of him? Will they move off of him? Who is the guy they could move him for? I know we talked about Tom Brady. You got Aaron Rodgers sitting there as well. But Jimmy's value will play a role in that. We'll talk about that later in the week as well in terms of what Jimmy's value is and what he could do. But, we went from you and I thought for sure, no Super Bowl, Jimmy's getting dealt. Super Bowl, Jimmy could stay. To Jimmy's gone, Tom Brady is the guy. To Jimmy may not be leaving now is what the reports are saying. So they're all over the place. Are you surprised by that at all? That there's no set in stone for sure anything about what's going on with Jimmy Garoppolo?
No, because there's such an unknown around Trey Lance. Trey Lance's unknowns are what are allowing these sorts of things to be talked about. Because we haven't seen him tangibly do things at a high level, right? Week 17, Patrick Mahomes has a outrageously good game. So there was less question marks after that season about whether Patrick Mahomes would be ready.
True.
There was still question marks. Go back and look it up. They were asking the same sort of things.
I had question marks.
Right. So
I personally was like, I don't know what you saw enough out of Pat Mahomes. Yeah, he had one good game, but it's one good game. What have you seen at Pat Mahomes that makes you think that he's ready? But again, I'm not a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I'm not paying attention to what Reed and them are talking about and with him in practices. There's a reason for that. The fact that Jimmy there hasn't been a deal in place, right? And there's not something on the table already for Jimmy Garoppolo makes me think that they're still evaluating this.
I think there's something on the table. It just might not be what they're looking for or not ready to pull the trigger on it.
Okay.
The thing is there's going to be teams that want Jimmy Garoppolo.
Agreed with you there.
The question is, where's Trey Lance at in his development? If they believe over the next, 7 months, for instance, that Trey Lance is going to reach the potential to be a better option than Jimmy Garoppolo, and I'm not talking from a talent prospect, because as a talent,
he's already better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Talent-wise, absolutely.
But as reading, being able to implement the offense, run it from play to play.
Get you in and out of the right plays, be able to manage the game, but also not have to just be a guy who has to manage the game.
Yeah, there's question marks around that, only because we haven't seen it. And people keep going back to the Houston Texans game and saying, look what he did in that second half, where he was 6 for 10 for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Where Kyle finally trusted Trey is the narrative that I'm seeing now come out is Kyle trusted Trey. It wasn't that Trey figured out what the defense was doing. Kyle put him in very similar situations, which is exactly what happened. Because I didn't see it. Did you see a shift in play calling from first half to second half?
Not entirely, no. I mean, he threw the ball 10 times. It seems like a very Jimmy Garoppolo style of playing. The difference was, Trey took advantage of some of those, the big shot to Deebo Samuel.
Yep.
Some of those played into it. I think that, when it comes down to it, though, that's why there's these question marks around Trey Lance, because they're just an unknown. And anyone that says they know for sure, this is one of the big things I talked about on Twitter. You don't know for sure. There's no way Trey Lance is ready to be the starting quarterback right now. And I feel good about that statement, especially because Matt Mioka he says the same exact thing. And anytime you're kind of on the same page with him, you're feeling good about it, but you just don't know. The 49ers themselves might know, and that's okay, but I haven't tangibly seen it, and there's nothing that comes from the Arizona or Texans game that makes me say 100% Trey Lance is ready or not. That means that I have to believe that these other options are possibilities. The question is the things that are surrounding them, Alex, like with Tom Brady, for instance. Do we believe, because John Chapman doesn't believe Tom Brady is even a legitimate possibility, because he doesn't think that Tampa Bay would trade Tom Brady to the 49ers. You're not going to, help or improve one of the teams that was just in the NFC Championship game. Do you think that's a possibility? And then also and he's probably right on this, Jimmy Garoppolo's not an ideal fit for what Tampa Bay does on offense. So a Jimmy for Tom Brady deal doesn't make a lot of sense. Do you think that Tampa Bay would trade Tom Brady to the 49ers, knowing that it could potentially put the 49ers in the Super Bowl next year?
Good. Yeah, I can see it. And this is, you and I tweeted something. We tweeted that people may not be ready for what that means. Do we want to do that now, or do we want to save that for another episode?
I don't know, man. That's up to you. You roll with it.
I'm going to go with it, Ant. I'm just going to go with it. Let's just drop this now. I mean, we said it. I'm going to do it now. We're going to do it right now in this episode. The conversation people might not be ready for is the fact that if the Niners don't think that Trey is ready this year, and you believe that you have a chance to win a Super Bowl, if you get a quarterback in who could get it done, and Tom Brady is that quarterback, and we just saw him do it a couple years ago, Trey Lance might be out. Trey Lance might be the guy that is put in that package for Tom Brady. And I know there's some of you right now that are running over to smash the dislike button. Don't do that. Hit the like button and hear me out here. As silly as that would be in terms of trading Trey Lance away to get Tom Brady in here, you still would also have the ability to trade Jimmy Garoppolo as well and get even more draft capital back. And you would be kicking the can down the road for the quarterback position. Because you and I both know there is no quarterback in this draft that you're looking at right now going, this guy is the future of the NFL, and you need to make sure you can go get him. It's the opposite of that. Tom Brady would then not be a guy that you would be kicking the can down the road. You wouldn't be kicking the can down the road for 1 year. You'd be kicking the can down the road ideally for another 2 to 3 to get another quarterback in. You could also do the same thing with Aaron Rodgers, in which Trey Lance is the trade piece and the linchpin of getting a guy like Rodgers into San Francisco in order to get him here. Are those possibilities? 100% yes, they are possibilities. Anyone that wants to write those off isn't being honest about what the 49ers are trying to do. The 49ers are trying to win a Super Bowl. They're trying to be the best team in the NFL next year, the year after. Can Trey Lance make you that team? Maybe. Would Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady make you that team? I would say most definitely. I think it's almost 100% you're immediately one of the best teams with either of those two quarterbacks.
You know for sure you are. I mean, if Tom Brady comes to the 49ers, and I think when it comes to that, I wouldn't trade Trey Lance for Tom Brady.
For Tom Brady, no. For Aaron Rodgers, maybe.
It depends, because Aaron is so up in the air. You don't know what Aaron is going to do. There's no guarantee you don't trade for Aaron Rodgers, and I mean, you'd have to sign a long-term extension, but there's no guarantee the dude wouldn't just decide tomorrow that, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to play no more. I mean, anytime you're rocking a haircut like that, I mean, it makes you question who the guy is. So I think that there's some questions about Aaron Rodgers.
There are definitely some questions.
There's no questions about his talent. I mean, he's a tremendous talent. I think the scenario that makes the most sense, as much as I think Aaron Rodgers would flourish in Kyle Shanahan's offense, I think the 49ers offense would be dynamic. I think Tom Brady is the one that makes the most sense. The reason being is I think he's a guy that's already started to leverage Tampa Bay by saying he's going to retire.
Well, he says he's going to retire. He hasn't put in the paperwork yet. And even if he did put in the paperwork, he could just sign something and come back after the fact. He has to wait a certain amount of time.
He won't put in the paperwork.
I agree with you that he won't put in the paperwork. Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't think people realize if Tom is dead set on not playing for Tampa and would just retire, right, rather than play in Tampa Bay, if you're Tampa, sitting on that is going to cost you money. It's going to cost you some money. There'll be a retirement settlement, and you maybe can push some of that money down the road and things of that nature, but it's going to cost you money and you don't get anything out of it. Whereas you could trade the rights to Tom Brady to somebody and get some draft capital or get a player or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's more like the Gronk situation in New England, where Gronk said to them, like, hey, I'm ready to come out, and they moved him to Tampa Bay for a mid-round pick. I think that Tom Brady could get moved, And potentially it might not be a Jimmy for Tom, but it could be the pick you get from Jimmy for Tom.
That's true.
It all depends. If the 49ers feel like Tom Brady's their best opportunity to win a Super Bowl, and Tom Brady feels that the 49ers, are a place that he wants to play and retire, then to me that makes sense. It's a marriage, but it has to be both sides wanting it, right? This is one of those things where the ring is there, but they have to both decide they want to put it on. And if one of them is not involved, then this thing ain't going nowhere. So I think it's a potential thing.
Of the two,
still not, I don't think, likely.
I don't think it's likely. Of the two parties, who would be the most hesitant?
I think the 49ers.
I agree with you
because you're delaying the possibility of Trey Lance developing more. But you have a roster. This is one thing I've been consistent with since we traded up to get Trey Lance, is we have a roster that has Trent Williams, it has Nick Bosa,
True.
It has all these guys that want to win a Super Bowl. Raheem Mostert possibly coming back he wants to come back to win a Super Bowl. And so you're bringing these guys back for a reason, and you're not bringing them back to develop and rebuild with a quarterback. You have to have the belief that Trey Lance is that guy. And if Trey Lance is already going to be more capable than Jimmy Garoppolo, he's going to understand the offense and able to implement it at a higher level, then you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. You were 3 points away from getting there. So you're right there in the midst of the best teams. So if Trey's that guy, then you roll with Trey. If he's not, and I'm not saying it needs to be a 2, 3, a 4-year thing, but if he's not, you have a team that's ready to win now. You would have to think you would at least try to gauge the interest of Tom Brady to come back. And just Tom Brady's comments make me think that, he's waiting on something like this to happen. And all the news about him not being happy with the 49ers. Of course he wasn't happy with the 49ers, but everyone's not happy until it's forgiven because you're in the situation you wanted to be in anyways.
Can we also be honest here? It also has come out now officially that the comments that he made about you're sticking with that MFer comments that he made were actually about the Miami Dolphins rolling with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tua Tagovailoa, not the 49ers. So everyone who said that was 100% the Niners, it wasn't. He wasn't talking about San Francisco. He was talking about Miami, who he felt had a defense and the weapons offensively to get it done, but we're sticking with unproven to mediocre journeyman quarterbacks instead of taking a chance with him and trying to win a Super Bowl. So I do think that Tom wants to be in San Francisco. I truly believe that. I don't think there's anything that makes me think that Tom doesn't want to be in San Francisco or that Tom doesn't want to keep playing. I think he does. I think he's soured on everything that's happened in Tampa Bay. I think he's soured on Arians' handling of things both on and off the field. It's come out also that him and Byron Leftwich were the ones that were involved early in the season with game planning, and that because Arians was coming off the Achilles injury, and that they would put in the work all week on a game plan, and Arians would come with a red pen and just mark it up and change things. I don't like this. This is stupid, yada, 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 without having done any of the prep work as to why they came up with the decisions they made, which is why Leftwich wanted out. And it may make sense now why Tom is kind of just being like, you know what? I get it. We won a Super Bowl, but you seem to think that you won a Super Bowl because of you and not because I came in and helped you win a Super Bowl. And so Tom's feeling a little underappreciated on top of the Antonio Brown drama, on top of everything else that's happened with that offense and the injuries and the fact that they're not in a great cap situation.
And what is the dynamic between, because I've seen some of the tweets now talking about the fact that Kyle Shanahan is the one holding this up because he doesn't want to have to deal with Tom Brady. He doesn't want to have to concede some of the offense to him. Do you think there's anything to that? There was that talk with Jim Harbaugh and Peyton Manning that he wanted to run his offense. He didn't want Peyton Manning to come in and change things. Do you think Kyle Shanahan has the ego, because this is what is being said, do you think he has the ego to say, no, we want to do it my way because I want to prove that I can win a Super Bowl? Is that a reason why he would want to go with Trey over Tom, because he wouldn't want to make it look like, oh, no, I needed Tom Brady to win a Super Bowl?
No.
You think the whole Matthew Stafford thing kind of plays into that too?
100%.
Where it's like, it didn't make McVay look like a worse coach, right?
No, McVay looks like a genius because of Matt Stafford. He looks like a genius, right? Like, oh, you had this guy that was holding you up and you went and got the piece you needed to make your offense flourish. And says, no, Kyle's not looking at this and going, if I have to cede some control to Tom, or Tom is more involved in drawing up or play calling and things of that nature, then I look like I just couldn't get it done and I needed to get Tom Brady. No, if the narrative is that Jimmy Garoppolo was the reason why the Niners offense didn't flourish and Tom Brady comes in and takes it to the next level, then Kyle Shanahan went out and got the quarterback he needed in order to take his offense from a very good offense that put up a good amount of points and did some very creative things to an offense that could still be all those creative things and operate extremely well under Tom Brady. Like, it seems like it would be The smart thing to do, right, would be to go out and get a guy who could take your offense to the next level. People are saying that, like the ego thing. Kyle's not doing it. Kyle's not. He's not doing that.
I don't think so either. I think that at some point, right, you want to win a Super Bowl. And we got to remember that in 2018, the 49ers had conversations with New England about Tom Brady and the possible trade. I think it was actually 2017.
It was 2017.
Before they got Jimmy Garoppolo. They had interest in him then. I mean, I don't think Kyle Shanahan would have no interest now if he had it then, because Tom Brady's actually coming off a very, very good season with Tampa Bay.
Absolutely.
They had a lot of weapons. He was able to do his thing. And we all know what's tied to Tom Brady. When Tom Brady comes, he's going to bring an attitude. And I did watch Man in the Arena. I've watched all of them. And his mindset that he could bring and the things that he would be able to share with Trey Lance could also be invaluable as well.
Huge, man.
But the attitude of winning and the challenging each other.
And understanding how hard it is to get back there. I mean, he talked about that all throughout Man in the Arena, right? Like, you get there and you think you're just going to keep getting back there. And then they go through that stretch of never getting back to a Super Bowl. And he goes, I just come in one day and realize, man, like, it is tough. It is not that even the years where it felt easy, it is tough. It is hard. It is hard to get to a Super Bowl. It's extremely difficult.
It's an absolute grind. I mean, it makes you really look back at what like the Buffalo Bills did in the
5 straight?
4 straight.
4 straight.
That was tremendous.
I think it was 5 AFC Championship games. How about the Eagles? All the AFC Championship games they made in a row before they only made one Super Bowl and lost it.
49ers almost going back to back to back. I mean,
it's true.
It's an impressive feat. Those things are really tough to do in the NFL these days, but you need that guy pulling the trigger. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Trey Lance is ready or not, because right now I don't know. But one thing I do know is if for some reason this front office decides, and really I'm talking Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, that they are going to bring in a veteran quarterback and they decide that person's going to be Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, that to me tells me that they believe this team is ready to win. They believe they need to win right now, and that maybe Trey needs a little bit more seasoning. And he's a 22-year-old kid. I mean, he's a 22-year-old kid who's gonna have a lot of growth. I think at some point he takes the reins and he takes this thing to the next level. Whether that's in 2022, 2023, 2024, I don't know. I just
say Trey Lance 2024 starting quarterback. That is
kind of hyperbole, because I do believe it's going to be. If it's not this year, it will be next year, 100%. Okay. I don't think there's anything beyond that. I think it would be Tom Brady for 1 year. And I
have been the one on this podcast who said I thought he needed maybe. I think my high end was 3 years. I think I said 2 to 3 years is what I said for his development. So all of the fact that this QB chaos is happening and the fact that people don't know whether or not Trey's going to be the starter doesn't surprise me at all. I haven't been sitting back watching these conversations unfold and being like, I can't believe that Trey Lance there's something wrong with Trey Lance if he's not the starting quarterback in 2022. Because I was someone who's sitting there going, I would prefer if he had 2 years. Like, my personal opinion was if he had 2 to 3 years to get ready and he started off his career at age 24 as like starting off as a quarterback, like finally getting his first snaps as the official starting quarterback for the 49ers, that I felt really good about that. A guy with a butt ton of potential who had 3 years to develop. And people were like, well, you don't trade up and draft a guy at 3 to do that. You are 100% correct, which is why I wasn't over the moon about them drafting Trey Lance at 3, was because I thought he was a guy who needed time. I thought that. I still think that. I still think that he's a guy who's better suited with time to really hone in on his mechanics, hone in on the throwing motion, have time to digest the offense, see how the NFL works, understand the ins and outs of having to work, the film watching, the preparation. Learning from Jimmy Garoppolo is great for a year. Learning from Tom Brady would be even better, right? It would be 10 times better. Learning from a guy like Aaron Rodgers for the next 2 years would be incredible. And notice that we haven't really talked a lot about Aaron Rodgers in this QB chaos. It's because I think of all the quarterbacks that are on the screen right now, he's probably the least likely, right? He's the least likely of the 4.
Let's just go ahead and rate these as far as starting quarterbacks go, Alex. I think it's most likely that Trey Lance is the starting quarterback.
Agreed. I think that is the most likely one scenario. And then I think after that, do you think it's Jimmy or do you think it's Tom?
I think it's Tom.
I would agree with you too.
I mean,
I agree.
Because Tom Brady is actually going to cost less than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Accurate.
Jimmy Garoppolo, $25 million. What are you going to bring this guy back? Unless he's the starter, you're not bringing him back to be a $25 million backup. So,
well, you have to be. Right, you're extending Jimmy at that point. You have to be extending Jimmy.
You can't. You just can't. I mean, you can't extend him to be the backup quarterback for your team.
I mean just extending him, period. If they bring him back another year, they're going to extend him.
Yeah, they're not bringing him back. They're going to take what they get.
I agree with you. I agree with you that they're going to take what they get.
Jimmy doesn't want to be in that situation again. The 49ers don't want Jimmy to be in that situation
They don't want Trey to be in that situation either.
No, they want to turn the page on that. I think it's Trey, then Tom, then
Aaron, then Jimmy?
No, then Jimmy, then Aaron.
Okay.
I don't.
I thought you were going to throw the swerve and swerves there.
I think Aaron Rodgers would love to be with the 49ers.
I
think
agree
he
with
would
you.
absolutely love it. There is nothing about LaFleur that makes me think that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to get to San Francisco. LaFleur was mad that they even called. The guy, he doesn't even care. Due diligence just ticked him off because he knows what would happen, right? It's like giving Kyle Shanahan the codes, the codes to push the button to the nuclear arsenal. They don't want that to happen. And there's a lot of conversation that Aaron Rodgers can't win the big one. I'm sorry. You put his talent with Kyle Shanahan's offense and the way he can scheme guys wide open.
You're going to put two choke artists together, Ant.
Yeah.
That's two choke artists.
Yeah.
They're going to mega choke.
They would mega win. I think that's part of the reason that everyone on that screen, they've all proven that they can take their teams to, the point except for Trey Lance. And that's the only reason that there's a conversation around this.
Agree with you on that.
He hasn't proven it yet. He will at some point. I think I was pretty dead set it was going to be this year. But unfortunately, when there is the golden child out there and Tom Brady just sitting there waiting, anticipating him
available,
it's enticing. It's really enticing to I think 100%. Anyone. Why wouldn't you? I mean, look at the situations where a player at the end of their career has went to a team to win a Super Bowl. It happens a lot
all the time.
Peyton Manning did it. Tom Brady has done it. Of course, he could do it again. This is something that has worked in the past. Matthew Stafford just did it.
Literally just did it.
So is this something that the 49ers are like, you know what, we're just all in? And if they are,
he did it with the help of some zebras, but he did do it.
You know what though? If they want to help the 49ers quarterback, whoever that is,
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that as well.
I also would be fine with that.
I have no problems with that.
Goodell?
But I do think that this is a conversation that had to be had, that we had to talk about because there are some questions around it. But we're not going to know for a little bit.
So let me ask you this then. I think this would be the next question on everybody's mind. Everyone in the Cutback crew, I know myself included, and I'll get to how I'm feeling about this also. How confident are you that Trey Lance could get us right back to an NFC Championship this upcoming season?
I'm confident to the point I know physically he has the tools to do it.
Agreed with you there.
And I know that he's going to be working with John Beck during the offseason.
Accurate.
And he's going to improve a lot. I mean, just what he improved from minicamp to training camp, what he improved from training camp to Arizona, and then Arizona to Houston.
The Texans, yeah.
I'm optimistic. But for me to sit here and tell you that I know he's a better option than Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't. Because Jimmy Garoppolo with a bum thumb and a shoulder almost falling off was still considered the better option at quarterback.
Not only that, can we also give some credit where credit's due? A lot of people talked about this injury being faked. The fleck of bone doesn't feel like or seem like it was a fleck of bone anymore because it's being reported now that it's an avulsion fracture that he's dealing with. Yeah. Something that Chris Paul is currently dealing with the Phoenix Suns, and he's going to be out for 6 weeks. 6 weeks because they basically saying it's too painful for him to deal with contact defensively and dribbling a basketball and shooting.
Yeah,
this guy just played through that.
Yeah, it's also a difference in sport.
In sport, but he's still gripping the ball with that hand and throwing with that thumb.
No, I'm just saying
that's got to be extremely difficult. But this is what I mean. Jimmy, I am confident with Trey Lance like you to a point, right? I know what the physical tools are and the physical gifts. I know we're going to see the big plays. And as exciting as the big plays are, it's everything else that's the question mark for me. It's not the big plays and the big throws. Right? If the Niners play close in a lot of those games with Trey Lance, and then Trey makes the big throw at the end of the game to win the football game, that is absolutely wonderful and great. But if the Niners are in a position where Trey has to make a big throw in order for the Niners to win the football game, that's going to be my question mark. Because what are those mistakes looking like? And eventually those mistakes you have to think, if he's making them early in football games, are going to end up costing the Niners down the road because you're going to dig yourself too big of a hole. And that's a lot of pressure to put on a young QB coming into the league. You're going to need to win the game with your arm, but your arm is also the reason why we're in the hole and your arm needs to win the game. That's a lot of up and down for a young guy. And I think this is why this situation hasn't been decided and determined that Trey is the guy, they're just going to take the first thing they get from Jimmy is they're sitting there going, Kyle's sitting there going, I need to protect this kid from himself. Because all of those tools and talents and traits, everything physically that Trey Lance does incredible. That Javier Vega dropped on Twitter that we saw in person with our own eyes in training camp, and that people saw in the second half against the Texans with some of those throws. All of those things are great. However, those things can also get you in trouble. If you rely too much on your arm, you're a guy who wants to take chances. Look what happened to Pat Mahomes this year. Until Pat Mahomes settled in and started taking what defenses gave him and read defenses and got rid of the football instead of trying to make the big, incredible throw all the time, until he started doing that, that Chiefs offense struggled and he struggled. It was the kind of the turning for Patrick Mahomes in terms of him understanding, you know, as talented as I am, I have to also be able to take what the defense gives me and be able to read defenses and get the ball out on time to guys that I need to get it out to. And that's the part that Trey's still figuring out.
Yeah, I think so. And I think one of the biggest questions I have with Trey Lance is his ability to throw the football over the middle. A lot of people talk a lot about Jimmy Garoppolo only lived over the middle. Well, part of the reason is that Kyle Shanahan's offense predicates that you go over the middle because you have a heavy run game that brings those linebackers up, and then you find these avenues to be able to attack. I think that, you know, Trey has to prove that he can improve in that area. I think he's going to improve a lot. I think the Trey Lance we saw against Houston is going to be remarkably different when we get to training camp. The question is it going to be where Kyle Shanahan feels it's enough? And do they need to make a move before that? Can you wait until, you know, mini camps? Can you wait until training camp and then say, you know what? We think maybe we need to call Tom. I don't know. I think they're going to make that decision earlier than that.
I would agree with you.
And I think that part of that, the reason he is working with John Beck is because
Kyle can pick up the phone and ask
and call John Beck. And John Beck before draft was one of the real reasons, you know, they like Trey Lance. I mean, I know Kyle was like it, but John Beck obviously signed off on it. And so he trusts John Beck and what John Beck's assessment is.
Accurate.
I think he'll trust him in this situation too. But I think Kyle has to have an idea. And they're gonna move forward either with Trey or I think the next best option is Tom Brady after that.
I would agree with you. I think it's 1 Trey, 2 Tom Brady, 3 Jimmy, and 4 Aaron. And it's not because Jimmy is better than Aaron. It's just because with Aaron's situation, what you may have to give up in order to get him there, and then how much money he wants to make. And also, Aaron Rodgers is a wild card. If you watched any of him on Pat McAfee last week on Wednesday when he typically comes on, he came on the McAfee show. They talked a little bit, and he said, number one, I'm not talking about anything that's going on with the Packers right now, but then talked about his 12-day cleanse that he went on that made him really, you know, wanted to show appreciation, all this stuff. If you know anything about that cleanse, it is essentially like 12 days of therapeutic massage, throw up therapy. You're vomiting. You're basically purging your body.
I'm vomiting hearing this.
For 12 days. It is disgusting. It is brutal. I don't know how I don't know how one gets themselves through it. I tip my hat to you because I couldn't do that for 12 days, man. I couldn't do it. I'm glad that he feels refreshed and feels like, you know, he's a better person because of it and feeling like he's, you know, he's got his chakra and his energy all aligned and all that, whatever else you do in that therapeutic session that he went through for 12 days. Can't do it.
The other thing I'll say is if Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady really want to, you know, continue playing, neither one of them wants to play in the AFC. They both want to be in the NFC, and that's why the 49ers are so intriguing to them because the Niners were just in the NFC Championship game, but there's not all the great quarterbacks around them. Kyler Murray hasn't proven it. Russell Wilson hasn't, you know, he's been struggling a little bit with injuries over the last few years.
True.
You don't even know if he's going to be there. So you got Dak Prescott to go through. Potentially, you know, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady know they go through each other. It's just an easier path. You don't have Drew Brees. You don't have New Orleans. You don't have Sean Payton there. It's an easier path to the NFC.
AFC, you got to deal with Mahomes. You got to deal with Josh Allen. You got to deal with Joe Burrow now.
Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert as well. Coming up in
there is a lot of great quarterbacks over there.
And they're young.
Yeah.
They're going to be there for a while.
They are.
And they're hungry.
And potentially, if Russell Wilson gets traded or if Aaron Rodgers gets traded, they are going to end up in the AFC.
You would think. You'd think they would. Because you would think they don't want to end up here. And maybe some people in the Cutback crew right now in the chat are going, what about Russell Wilson? You just haven't talked about him. That's not happening. There is no world in which that's happening.
No.
None. The Niners would have to give up like 5 first-round picks.
I think he has a better chance of playing in the USFL than he does playing for the 49ers.
Maybe the XFL.
Yeah. I mean, if you're telling me, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. 4 or 5 years from now, he's a free agent. The 49ers have some sort of quarterback situation, maybe. But in a trade situation, absolutely not.
It
would never happen.
Heck to the Nizza. It's just not. There's no possible world or reality in which that's the case. I think you and I are on the same boat. I know there's a lot of talk. There's been a lot of talk this week about Jimmy Garoppolo, how it's not a guaranteed that he's going to go anywhere. I think you and I know that that's just smoke screening that's going on currently at the moment. It's trying to draw up doubts and concerns about Trey while also propping up Jimmy as being extremely valuable to San Francisco and that they're not just going to move off of him for anything. I think it's smart, but I think you and I both know at the end of the day, Barring Trey Lance having a setback of an offseason in which he goes to work with John Beck, and John Beck calls up Kyle Shanahan and is like, dude, red alert, hit the panic button. This kid needs 2 more years. He ain't ready. Barring that happening, there's no way Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be the quarterback going into this year. And this is someone who has said that if Jimmy played well enough, I thought in the NFC Championship game, even if you came up short, that Jimmy could end up staying. And Jimmy didn't have a terrible NFC Championship game with a bum thumb and shoulder. He really didn't have a bad one. And after that performance, it stung, and I didn't think about it. And I went back and watched it and looked at some of the numbers and the stats, and I was like, we didn't really play that badly. Even after all of that, I don't think there's any way that this man's coming back to San Francisco. And this is someone who has a great appreciation for everything that Jimmy has brought back to this organization after years of inconsistency, terribleness, having high highs, having low lows over the past decade or so with this team. There's no way he's coming back. It's not happening.
No, the NFC Championship game left me with a bad taste in my mouth because Jimmy Garoppolo misplays.
He did.
Everyone talking about Deebo Samuel didn't get the ball, over the final 12 minutes.
Deebo Samuel was wide open.
He was open a lot, and he was missed. And to me, that was a perfect, illustration that Jimmy Garoppolo shouldn't be the quarterback of the 49ers anymore. It's time to move forward. He did a lot right here. They put a team around him that was possible for him to lead to a Super Bowl. He wasn't able to get it done. The second year, of course, he did have the injuries, which, of course, I'm sure contributed to some of the limitations, and I appreciate all the toughness. But I think it is time to turn the page for a franchise, turn the page for Kyle Shanahan and Trey Lance as well. But I think this is the time where you move on from him. What they're going to get is another story for another episode. I'm sure we're going to talk about possible locations where he could land and what they could get for him. But I do think he's going to be on the move, and when that happens, it doesn't mean Trey Lance is automatically the quarterback. Remember when they had exit interviews, they did not tell Trey Lance you're the starting quarterback next year. They did not tell him that. They're going to make him earn it all the way, and because they know that the only way you're going to get the best Trey Lance is if you continue to challenge him, and there's no guarantee. That's why also who his backup is going to be so important. But
accurate.
I don't want to discount the fact that Tom Brady's sitting out there, because when you have one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time available, you always kick the tires on it. So just knowing what Tom Brady brings, the effect that he'll bring, the amount of free agents that would want to play with him, knowing that you're going to load in for 1 year, I think it's something that's enticing. I don't know if they'll ultimately pull the trigger. I don't know if he's willing to come. It's going to take 2. It takes 2, baby. But if it does, then you can see Tom, and we might be waiting another year for Trey. But if not, it's going to be Trey Day, and we're going to roll with the young kid, and we'll see how much improvement he's had since the Houston Texans game.
It's going to be exciting, man. Offseason is going to be exciting. The QB chaos is just getting started. If you think it's over, you are dead wrong. Listen, pieces aren't going to start falling until we know more about Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. Once you know more about what's happening with them, then you're going to start hearing some information on Jimmy Garoppolo and what the Niners decide to do. Everyone who kept talking about Jimmy was going to be traded as soon as possible by the time we get to March 16th, you're wrong. Because teams are going to wait. These teams are going to do their due diligence. They may be desperate for quarterback play, but they're not desperate enough to jump at the first guy they think may be available. They're going to kick the tires on all the options. They're going to expand all their options.
I think it depends on what happens in the combine. You're going to get all these owners and teams together, and that's really when things start moving.
Do they really need the combine to evaluate this quarterback class?
No. That's when you're going to talk with other teams, because everyone's in one location. That's when hey, we're sitting down, we're having a drink, we're having a conversation.
True. And
that's when things get done. And we know John Lynch has a very good relationship with some of the Washington Commanders people. Martin Mayhew used to be on the 49ers front office. So if they're interested in bringing in Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm sure the conversation would happen then. So I think combine is where, the wheels really start getting turned. And we'll see. We'll see if they can, move Jimmy for a decent haul. I don't think it's going to be the 11th overall pick like it was getting floated there for a minute, but I'm sure it'll be something that is equivalent of what Jimmy Garoppolo has brought to the 49ers and something that'll help the 49ers move forward.
I agree with you on that. We'll see what happens with combine information and what comes out of that. We'll see if anything picks up in trade talks for Jimmy Garoppolo. The QB chaos is not going anywhere, 49ers fans, so you need to buckle up and buckle in. If Trey Lance is the quarterback come week 1 for San Francisco, things in the chaos category will settle down until we see Trey Lance play, and then there will always be the people that flare up with, we never should have went with Trey. See, Trey was the answer all along. This drama is not going anywhere, so just sit back and try and enjoy this team and this organization. And you know what? You're not just going to get quarterback talk from us.
No.
We're back. The break is over. We're done with our break. Vacation time and prep work is behind us. We've started our prep. We're ready for draft. We're getting ready for the draft. We're ready for free agency. Ready for all these things. We're already talking about it with you all week long. And if you want additional content, make sure that you become a channel member right here on YouTube, or go support us over on Patreon, because we got a members only live stream and Zoom hangout tonight that only our channel members here on YouTube and our patron supporters get to be a part of. That'll be going up in a little bit. The link will go live. Everyone that's on the channel membership will get a notification, and everyone over on Patreon will get a nice little update with the invitation for the Zoom hangout. And listen, we're going to have a good time. We're going to have some fun, talk about everything that's been going on in 49ers land. And then you want to stick around and make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow we got a wonderful coaching carousel conversation about all the moves that have been happening in San Francisco. Why? What is going on? Who are maybe some replacements for certain positions that are still available for San Francisco? It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of topics to get into. 49ers had a lot of things going on, and I think that we need to bring, some of the conversations to light and really go over it. I think it's going to be fun. But yeah, I'm excited about the everything that's happening tonight with the live stream. It's going to be fun to interact with everyone. It's been a while, and that's something I always look forward to. So patrons and members, it's going to be fun. If you're not a patron or member, do that and join the conversation. And, if you don't want to, that's fine too. There's going to be plenty of stuff all week on YouTube, and we're building towards the combine and then building towards free agency. That's what you're going to get a lot of. And, over right now, I know draft talk is something that's polarizing. Everyone's already getting into draft talk, but we're going to stick with the free agency and some of that stuff, because I don't know if people know this, but filling holes in free agency will dictate what happens in the draft.
No way. You mean to tell me that everyone that's coming out with mock drafts right now and all of this stuff and what the Niners' needs are going into the draft have completely ignored the fact that free agency is going to be the determining factor?
I don't think they've ignored it, but I think they're excited about the draft. The draft is an animal all its own, and people really, really like it. I mean, as soon as the season ends, before the season ended, people were already talking about the draft.
It's true.
I think it's something that, takes on a life of its own, and last year we got into the draft a lot sooner because the 49ers season was over a lot sooner.
Accurate.
A full month, in fact, that it was over earlier. So it gave you more time to get into free agency and then get into the draft. But everything has its place, and we're going to get into that. But there's a lot of conversations to have along the way. And when it's time for draft, don't worry. Draft content out the wazoo coming your way.
You won't be, there will be no shortage of content. I know that there was a shortage of content for the last 3 weeks, but that was because it was break time. Time to recharge. Time to make sure that we got our prep work in and had the energy and the stamina to drive through the craziness, the crazy part of the offseason, which is, it's literally here. We're upon it. We're now in it. We're in the thick of it. We're in the midst of it. You got just a couple of short weeks until free agency officially begins. You got a draft combine that's just literally around the corner. I can literally see it staring at me in my winking eye.
Wow.
It's next week. Did
it wink back?
It didn't wink back, but it's ready.
Okay.
It's ready to do its thing. It is here. It is upon us. We're going to go from literally combine to free agency, and then a few short weeks after that, less than a month, we got the draft coming up. And then OTAs. It is all coming at us so quickly and so fast, and we're excited. We're all prepped for it. There will be nothing short of content here on the channel daily at 11 a.m. And make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell, because there will be little special episodes that get sprinkled out throughout the week, and we'll let you know when those may be coming, but you don't want to miss anything. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you like the video. Comment down below, too, what you think about the QB chaos situation in San Francisco. We always love hearing from the Cutback crew. And for you Patreon and TCC channel members, we'll see you tonight for the hangout. And until the next one, stay safe.
Remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.